It happened again.
I can't say that word.
Stephen A., he's walking around like just because ESPN has padded his pockets with some millions, he's walking around like he's us, like he's an athlete, like he got that kind of cachet. And then, like I said, mentioning guys that obviously I think highly of, talking about Dion and Shannon and these guys I come across with, on a regular. You know what I mean? That's not cool to be name dropping. You know what I mean? Because now I'm around these guys and I'm like, okay, well, how do they really feel about me? You know what I mean? How do they think about me? You know what I mean? So that's where I am with it. You know what I mean? So as he said in this podcast, we don't ever have to speak again.
Okay.
Never, ever.
I remember the one time where things almost this is the one time I almost lost it. When T.O. came on the air and said that Max seemed blacker than me.
Take it back.
Take it back.
The full Colin Kaepernick. Again, you mentioned obviously Max is going to get in here. And like I said, I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with what he's coming, with his commentary.
With all due respect, my brother.
I'm just saying, dog.
Wait a minute. Wait to finish.
I'm just saying.
I'm going to check you right now. You done crossed the line.
I'm just saying.
Time. Wait a minute. You done crossed the line. First of all, like I said, you, Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, any of y'all that want to debate me in front of black people and talk about what's best for black people, name the time and place, I'll show up. I don't want to hear, what's the definition of blackness? Is there a definitive definition of blackness? Why are you giving the impression that because I don't march lockstep with every single thing that Colin Kaepernick wants? Okay, excuse me. Hold on,
I'm not agreeing.
Wait a minute.
I'm not agreeing with everything that Colin Kaepernick has done.
I'm not saying that, but you said, you just sat up there and used an expression. More blacker. Excuse me, I'm from Hollis, Queens, New York City. You ain't the only brother out there that's in the streets. I'm in the streets every day.
I get it.
So let's be very clear, and you damn well know that's the truth. And so my point to you is this. Again, I'm not going to disrespect you.
Now, I addressed it on the air, but where it almost got dicey, there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been involved with T.O. over the years. And it took everything in me not to go all in.
Terrell Owens didn't post a rant. He didn't make a video. He didn't call into a show. All it took was 5 words, a comment under Carmelo Anthony's Instagram post to set off one of the most unexpected celebrity sports beefs of the year. You're shady too, Ninja. No explanation, no emojis, just that. And instantly, fans knew exactly who he was talking about, Stephen A. Smith, because this wasn't just a random clapback. This was a hit from years in the making, one that traces all the way back to one of the most explosive moments in ESPN history. A moment when Terrell Owens looked Stephen A. dead in the face on First Take and said something no one in television had ever dared to say to him. It almost seems like Max Kellerman is blacker than you. That line didn't just stun the studio. It scarred Stephen A. Smith's public image, and the fallout from that single sentence still echoes today. But to understand why T.O. is still taking shots years later, and why Stephen A. might secretly deserve it,
I didn't deserve what he said on First Take.
we need to go back to the moment that fractured their relationship, and what it reveals about Stephen A.'s biggest flaw. Because underneath all the theatrics, all the yelling, all the viral monologues, there's a deep hypocrisy that even his fans are starting to notice. And the wildest part? Stephen A. may have accidentally proven Terrell Owens right. The line that broke the show. It was November 2019. First Take was in full chaos mode. Colin Kaepernick had just arranged his own NFL workout after a messy fallout with the league. Stephen A. was furious. He called Kaepernick a martyr who doesn't want to work. He accused him of being more interested in being right than being employed. Then, Terrell Owens came on the show, and what started as a debate about Kaepernick turned into something way deeper. A debate about who gets to define blackness in sports media. T.O. wasn't having it. He told Stephen A., "You have a platform, but it's the way you go about it." You were attacking him. Then came the line that would live forever. It almost seems like Max Kellerman is blacker than you. Stephen A.'s eyes widened. The studio went silent. Then he snapped. "I'ma check you right now. You done crossed the line." And that was it. The friendship was over. To Stephen A., that was a personal attack on his identity. To Terrell Owens, it was a truth bomb. Because for T.O., it wasn't just about race. It was about loyalty, authenticity, and how Stephen A. uses his platform. He felt Stephen A. had stopped standing up for athletes and started performing for the cameras. And to a lot of people watching, that moment on First Take didn't just expose tension between two men, it exposed the line between commentator and performer. But that line would only blur more in the years ahead. And the next time they crossed paths, the drama got even uglier, the falling out that never ended. After that First Take blow-up, Stephen A. and Terrell Owens didn't speak directly again, but the energy between them never cooled. Stephen A. started taking subtle digs. He mocked T.O. on air for still wanting attention. He hinted that Owens' financial situation might explain his behavior. And if there's one thing you don't say about Terrell Owens, it's that he's broke. Owens clapped back, telling the All the Smoke podcast, "Stephen A. can say what he wants about me, but he's not real. He's corporate. He's performative." And that's where the word performative started to stick, because more and more people began noticing something about Stephen A., something that would define his career in the 2020s. He wasn't just debating, he was acting. The loud voice, the walk-offs, the dramatic pauses, it all felt like theater. Even people who once loved his passion started wondering, is Stephen A. Smith even being real anymore? Then came his viral sit-down with Carmelo Anthony, the interview that brought this feud roaring back to life. The Carmelo conversation that changed everything. On Carmelo's show 7 p.m. in Brooklyn, Stephen A. opened up. He talked about his issues with LeBron. He revisited his complicated history with Kyrie Irving. He got emotional about the hate he's received online. And for a moment, it looked like vulnerability, until you looked closer. Because halfway through the conversation, Stephen A. did what Stephen A. always does. He pivoted from personal reflection to a viral soundbite. He said Kyrie Irving was selfish during the COVID saga, that LeBron was playing both sides when it came to media relationships, that brothers can't have real conversations anymore. It sounded powerful, but to people like Terrell Owens, it sounded fake. Because this is the same Stephen A. who dragged Kerry for months over his vaccine stance. The same Stephen A. who called him one of the most irresponsible superstars we've ever seen. Now suddenly he's saying, maybe Kyrie was right? That's not reflection. That's rewriting. And when Carmelo's team posted the clip on Instagram, fans flooded the comments calling out Stephen A.'s hypocrisy. Then, buried in the replies, Terrell Owens dropped his bomb. "You're shady too, Ninja." 5 words that said everything. Because to T.O., this wasn't just about one interview. It was about a pattern. Stephen A. preaches authenticity, but constantly shifts sides when the optics change. He says he's not personal, but always makes it personal. He says he's for the brothers, but often becomes the loudest voice, tearing them down. And Owens was done watching it happen. But this feud isn't just two egos clashing, it's about something much bigger. Something that defines modern sports media itself. The performer and the prophet. Stephen A. Smith isn't just a commentator, he's a brand. And that brand runs on emotion, outrage, and viral spectacle. Every time he raises his voice, it trends.
How do you do that? How do you do that? What the hell is going on?
Every walk-off becomes a meme. Every argument becomes a short clip for social media. That's not journalism, that's content creation. And in that content economy, authenticity gets sacrificed for engagement. Terrell Owens, for all his flaws, sees himself as the opposite. He's raw, unfiltered, sometimes messy, but real. He doesn't sugarcoat his pain or play to the cameras. That's why his feud with Stephen A. resonates so deeply. It's not just athlete versus analyst. It's authenticity versus performance. Owens represents a generation of athletes who were punished for speaking their minds. Stephen A. represents the new era, where speaking your mind is a business model. And when those two worlds collide, it gets ugly. Because to someone like Terrell Owens, Stephen A. isn't just hypocritical. He's symbolic of a media system that rewards performative outrage more than truth. But the question is Stephen A. actually the villain here? Or is he just playing the game everyone else signed up for? The system that created Stephen A. Let's be real, Stephen A. Smith didn't create this world, he just mastered it. He knows the formula. Outrage equals engagement. Engagement, money. Money equals relevance. And in that equation, being nuanced doesn't pay. being loud does. He's not rewarded for being consistent. He's rewarded for being viral. So when he tears down Kyrie one year and praises him the next, that's not hypocrisy in his mind. That's adaptation. When he calls LeBron out for being political, then praises him for being a genius of media control, that's not a contradiction. That's staying on top of the cycle. Stephen A. Smith is both a product and a mirror of today's sports culture, one where attention matters more than accuracy, and drama sells better than depth. But here's the irony. The same tactics that made him a star are now making people doubt him. And the people calling him out, like Terrell Owens, are forcing fans to ask, is Stephen A. still telling us what he believes, or just what'll go viral? And that brings us to the most revealing truth of all, the reflection in the mirror. When you strip away the noise, the yelling, the walk-offs, the tweets, you start to see something both men have in common. They're both performers. They both crave the spotlight. They both thrive on attention. Terrell Owens was once called the most polarizing man in football. Stephen A. Smith is the same in sports media. They're reflections of each other. Different industries, same DNA. That's what makes their feud so fascinating. Because every time T.O. calls Stephen A. shady, he's also calling out the part of himself that once lived for headlines. And every time Stephen A. defends himself, he's reacting like the same thin-skinned athlete he's made a career criticizing. They're two sides of the same coin. Authenticity versus performance, pride versus perception, truth versus theater. And maybe that's why their beef won't ever die. Because deep down, they're fighting the same battle, one against irrelevance in a world that only rewards noise. Who's really winning? So who's right? Is Terrell Owens justified for calling Stephen A. shady? Or is he just projecting his own frustrations onto someone who plays the game better than he ever could? Maybe the truth lives somewhere in between. Stephen A. is a showman, but he's also a product of the system that made him famous. Terrell Owens is raw and real, but also addicted to the same attention he criticizes. Their feud isn't really about hate, it's about identity. It's about who gets to control the narrative in a media world where honesty and performance are almost impossible to separate. So maybe the real question isn't who's right. It's what does it say about us that we keep watching both? Because every time we share their clips, every time we debate their quotes, every time we tune in for the next viral beef, we're feeding the very system that makes moments like this inevitable. So now it's your turn. Do you think Stephen A. Smith is genuinely hypocritical, or just doing what the business demands? Is Terrell Owens calling out the truth, or just chasing old ghosts? Drop your take in the comments below. I'm curious where you stand. And if you want more breakdowns like this, deep dives into the drama behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the next story might just change the way you see the NBA media forever.